26-year-old restaurant manager John Hackett is suing 24-year-old sales rep Garrett Shell for beating him with a baseball bat. John says at the time of the incident, Garrett was on parole for assaulting a police officer.
Yeah, this is case number 19 on the calendar in the matter of Hackett versus Shell. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Hackett, it is your claim that Mr. Shell assaulted you with a bat. You were escorting home a friend of yours, a woman. Is that this young lady?
Yes, ma'am.
This used to be her boyfriend.
Still is.
But at the time you were escorting her home, she had had a protective order against him.
Right.
Or she was afraid of him, and she asked you to take her home. And according to you, Mr. Shell showed up with a bat and out of the blue assaulted you quite badly. You were seriously injured, and you had a conversation with Mr. Shell's father. Is he here today, Mr. Shell?
No, ma'am.
According to you, that conversation was, please don't press charges against my son because he's already got enough trouble with the law at this moment. And if you were to press charges, he probably would go to prison. You negotiated a settlement with him, which he did not follow through with. So you are now suing him for $5,000 for this assault. Mr. Shell says that he has finally resolved all of his other problems with the criminal justice system, and he is now free to fight these baseless charges. Okay? You there. Name, please.
Salwa Akaway.
How old are you?
I'm 25.
How long have you and Mr. Shell been together?
For about a year and a half.
On August 18th, 2004, were you and Mr. Shell together or apart?
We were together, but we were fighting at the moment.
Had you ever, Miss Akaway, sought in a court a protective order against Mr. Shell? Is not an answer.
Okay. No, it didn't actually go through, but I
didn't ask you whether it went through. I said, have you ever sought a protective order against Mr. Shell?
No, I didn't.
You never went to a police station, a court, and requested a protective order?
Not requested a protective order.
You want to stop playing games with me, Miss Akaway, and tell me what you did?
I'm not playing games.
Listen to me very carefully. I've been married 28 years. If somebody said to me, did you ever seek a protective order against your husband, I would say no.
I just said no.
No, you didn't. You said, I never actually went through with requesting a protective order. It's what you said to me, Miss Akaway. There's a difference. Do you understand?
I understand.
Good. Now, you want to tell me what steps you took to consider a protective order against Mr. Shell? Answer the question.
I didn't take any steps. I mean, I didn't go anywhere or went to the police or anything.
Could you stand up? Good. Now, there was a reason that Mr. Hackett was taking you home on the evening of August 18th. You want to tell me what that was, Miss Akaway?
Yes. I mean, I went out to the bar or whatever, and I just asked him to escort me home because I was afraid.
Afraid of what?
Just afraid of just going home.
Mr. Hackett, she's having a brain trauma right now. She's very hard for her to get it together. Mr. Hackett, would you like, please, sir,
Yes.
to tell me the conversation that you had with Miss Akaway with regard to taking her home that evening?
Yes. She came up to me and she was very distressed. She said that she was afraid that her ex-boyfriend or boyfriend, I don't know, had just gotten released from jail and was harassing her, and she was scared. And that they.
Does that sound familiar to you?
Yes, actually it is.
Miss Akaway, don't play with me. I'm giving you fair warning. Don't play with me. Now, so she was afraid. The boyfriend was just getting out of jail?
Yes.
What were you in jail for, sir?
Ma'am, I had been out of jail for quite a while at that point.
Good. What had you been out of jail for a long time about?
I had been got into prison for assault on a public servant.
What public servant did you assault?
Police officer, ma'am.
Shh. Listen, I don't need any help from you. Now, you assaulted a police officer.
Yes, ma'am, at age 17.
And how long were you incarcerated?
I was incarcerated for 5 years and 2 months, flat.
Must have injured the police officer pretty badly. What did you assault the police officer with?
With my foot.
With your foot?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the only time you'd been incarcerated, Mr. Shell?
No, ma'am.
Subsequent to getting out of jail, were you incarcerated again?
Since prison?
Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
For what?
For assault.
Who?
On Sellowack Way.
When?
That would have been in January of
What date was it, Miss Agaway?
It was last year, January 8th, I think.
So when I asked you, Miss Agaway, whether or not you would ever sought a protective order against him, were you granted a protective order?
No.
So when he was arrested for assault and incarcerated for the assault, I assume that you were injured.
Yes, I was.
How were you injured?
I just had bruises all over my body. Like, well, mainly my arms.
But you forgave him.
Yes, I guess you can say that. Yes, yes.
Who are you?
Corey Shell, Garrett's brother.
Good. Now you can sit down for a minute.
Okay, thanks.
So you were escorting Miss Agaway home because she was afraid of Mr. Shell, who had just gotten out of prison and had been incarcerated subsequent to that for assaulting her, which is a very good reason to ask somebody to escort her home. And what happened, Mr. Hackett?
I drove in the car behind her car, and when we arrived at the house, she asked me to walk her to the door. So I helped her out of her car, helped her to the door, and as we were walking up the steps, she screamed, and as I turned around and I got clubbed. I fell on the ground. There was blood everywhere. I was dizzy. He was screaming, "Oh, you're..." Can I say what?
You can tell me anything. At my age, I've heard it all.
I mean, he was saying the equivalent of, "Oh, you're my girl. You're doing this. You're doing that." You know. And as he was, you know, it's kind of a blur of, you know, I was on the ground. Salwa came over to, you know, she was screaming and trying to get him off me. He threw her on the ground, pushed her away. And as I got up, I was very dazed. There was blood all in my eyes. And he was kind of circling me. You know, I've never thrown a punch in my life. And he was circling me, just popping me. So at some point, while I was on the ground, her brother came out of the door and asked what the hell was going on. By that time, Garrett took off. I mean, he went that way towards where Salwa was. I was laying on the ground.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I approached, she ran inside the house. Him and I had some verbal. He came at me, and I won.
And you had your Y chromosome tested.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Hackett says he was escorting home a female friend when he was attacked by her boyfriend, Garrett Shell. John says Garrett beat him with a baseball bat.
Now, you have your photographs, Mr. Shell?
No, ma'am.
You, over here. Bird, show her these pictures, would you please? Yes, sir.
I was just going to say that those pictures were taken at the hospital by the crime scene unit, and I had gone home and taken a shower and changed clothes.
Okay.
So that's after the shower.
You've not seen these pictures, sir, have you?
No.
Did you have any idea what he looked like after this attack?
I heard. I have not seen the pictures.
Well, just hand them over to him. Sure. Now, according to what I read, at some point you were contacted by Mr. Shell's father.
Yes.
And even though this is hearsay, the whole idea of the conversation was that he would pay you $40,000 if you would not prosecute his son, because his son was already on parole for another assault. I assume that that assault that you were on parole for, sir, was the assault against this young lady here?
No, ma'am.
Was that on the 5-year term for the assault on the police officer?
Yes, ma'am.
So you had a split sentence, you were paroled, you'd served 2/3 of your time?
I had 2 concurrent sentences, and
Why did you have 2 concurrent sentences, Mr. Shell?
I had another sentence for a check that was a day for day. In Texas, you have state jail felonies.
So what you're telling me, you had a prior case involving a check forgery?
A theft by check, yes, ma'am.
So you had a couple of years left to go in the event that you had a problem.
After I made parole, I had to
You had to stay clean.
Yes, ma'am.
But you were arrested again for the assault on the lovely Miss Agaway over here, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
And they didn't violate you on your original parole when you were arrested for assaulting Miss Agaway.
No, ma'am.
I find that curious. Did you have a trial with regard to the assault on Miss Agaway?
Yes, ma'am.
And she testified?
Yes, ma'am.
And you testified that he assaulted you?
Yes, I did.
And they didn't believe you?
They found him guilty on one charge.
They did. And what was that charge, Miss Agaway?
It was just for the assault, but there was 3 charges on there.
The lovely Miss Agaway says that you were found guilty on one of those charges, Mr. Shell.
Ma'am, I was not found guilty on an assault. I was found guilty on a domestic dispute
After a trial?
after a 2-day trial. And I beat the cases.
No, you didn't beat them, sir. You were found guilty of domestic dispute.
I was-
According to her, one of the charges of assault, according to you, was a domestic dispute. There is no such law on the books, by the way, Mr. Shell, in any jurisdiction that I'm familiar with that says a domestic dispute is a crime. There is assault, there is harassment, there's battery. Do you understand? But a
ma'am.
domestic dispute could be, you know, you forgot to change the roll of toilet paper. That could be a domestic dispute, too.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's not actionable in any court. Do you understand?
I understand that, ma'am.
Good. So you weren't found guilty of a domestic dispute.
Ma'am, I was charged with 2 Class A misdemeanor assaults and a Class C ticket, domestic violence.
Right. Domestic violence is a crime. Domestic dispute is not.
Yes, ma'am. Class
So
C.
you were found guilty of domestic violence.
Verbal, not physical, verbal.
Well, but according to the lovely Miss Agaway, she had bruises all over her body. She must have fallen down over herself several times, Mr. Shell. So if you say you didn't touch her, that means she's lying.
I mean, she's lying.
You picked him twice.
Wow.
You want to tell me, madam, about when Mr. Hackett walked you home and how he got to look like he looked in those pictures?
He walked me home because I did tell him that I was scared
Of him.
of him.
Right.
Okay. And then, so Garrett came out of nowhere and then basically, you know, fought Johnny. I mean,
No.
I mean, Johnny didn't fight back at all.
What did he hit him with?
His fists. There was no weapons there. Not that I saw, because I ran in the house because I was so scared for Johnny that I ran into the house and I called my brother, and then my brother's the one who called 911. I mean, I told Johnny that he had to go to the hospital. I mean, I was like crying.
Good. Now, so my question is, you were appearing on that side.
Actually, I wasn't on anybody's side. I was just here to tell the story. I wasn't on anybody's side.
She's neutral.
She's not neutral. She can't be neutral. She witnessed you assaulting Mr. Hackett, who she says did not even fight back. That's what you just said, right?
Right. I'm just here
Now-
to tell the truth.
Good.
That's
Well,
it.
that's what you just did. Sort of reluctantly, but you did. Sit down. Now I'm up to you, sir, because your answer says, now I am free to fight these false charges, and that's exactly what I plan to do. I'm ready.
I have one question for you, though.
I don't answer questions.
Okay.
I don't answer questions. I've heard his version, and I've heard her version. Now I want your version of what happened on the evening of August 18th.
Can I clear the beginning of what brought this about?
Absolutely not. I don't give a rat's behind what brought it about, sir. What I care about is he's walking her up the path, and you're there.
Yes, ma'am.
Pick it up from there.
Well, actually, we were into an argument, and I was with her earlier that night.
I don't care earlier that night.
Later on that night, I already had a friend call me and told me that she was with him at the bar.
I don't care.
What I'm telling you is, she was with her best friend's boyfriend, asks him to escort her home, knowing that I'm going to be there. I'm not knowing about him. He's not knowing about me. So pretty much when we got there, she probably would have known about what I'm going to see, and I was distressed about it. No, I did not start the fight. I approached, she ran inside the house, and at that point, this is when him and I had some verbal, and he came at me, and I won.
Have you had your Y chromosome tested?
Ma'am,
Listen to me very carefully, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Is this your girlfriend?
Yes, ma'am.
You think she loves you?
Yes, ma'am.
She took you back after you beat her up? Listen to me very carefully, Mr. Shell.
Yes, ma'am.
She loves you.
Yes, ma'am.
Live in the same place?
Yes, ma'am.
You live together. So you slept together last night?
Yes, ma'am.
Because you love each other?
Yes, ma'am.
She told me a second ago that you beat him up and he didn't fight back.
I know what she told you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, I understand.
So
that.
is she a liar?
Yes, ma'am, she's a liar.
And so she lied about that, and she lied about you beating her up when you were arrested for assault. Do you understand where we're going here, sir? Mm-hmm. He's big trouble. You understand that?
I do.
Big trouble. You have children?
I do have a daughter.
Who does she live with?
She lives with she lives with me.
Who does she live with?
She lives with me.
And him?
We don't live together. We used to. We don't anymore.
You just told me that you slept together last night.
Yeah, because we had the same flight. That's the only reason why.
Well, I fly with a lot of people. I don't sleep with them. Miss Hathaway, I don't know how much of what you're telling me is the truth or not. All I can tell you is that there are only so far two innocent people, and that's Mr. Hackett over here and your child. Now, I don't know if your child lives with you, lives with your mother, lives with the child's father, but I can tell you that the child should not be living with you because your judgment is so askew and so warped that you should really not be rearing a child. That's the judgment of somebody who's been in the business for 30 years. As far as your case is concerned, Mr. Hackett, I don't know why you would sell yourself short for $40,000. I would have liked to have seen this man prosecuted and go back to prison, not only on this assault, but violated on his parole and gone back to serve the 2 years he's got on his old assault case on a police officer. There are people in this world that are sociopaths. They don't understand how it feels to live in a community of other civilized people. Sometimes it's because they are short of stature and they feel as if they have to be aggressive. That sometimes happens. Whatever it is, you shouldn't have sold yourself short. Mr. Shell, I don't know whether you're able to be rehabilitated. Quite frankly, I doubt it.
Ma'am, you haven't even let me present my case at all.
Listen to me, sir. You told me that you got there about the same time she did. You fought with him. Listen to me. Quiet. You fought with him and you won. That's what you said. You said this was a fight and you won. That's your defense. I don't believe you. It's as clear as that. And it's my job to make a decision by the required quantum of proof, close your mouth, which is more proof than not who I believe. And quite frankly, Mr. Shell, it isn't even close. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $5,000.
You didn't even let me explain my case.
Parties are accused and they step out. Right here. Yeah, this is case number 5 on the calendar in the matter of Collins versus Daniel. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Ms. Collins, you and Mr. Daniel were boyfriend and girlfriend. It is your claim that after a night of both of you drinking, Mr. Daniel assaulted you, caused you severe injuries. You were treated in a hospital. You want him to pay your medical bills, and then some. Mr. Daniel said that you were both pretty drunk, that you were as aggressive as he was. He has no recollection of assaulting you to the extent that you claim that you were assaulted, and that you even saw each other subsequently. Is that right, sir? How long were the two of you dating?
We had been dating probably for about a month at the time when the incident happened.
You have a drinking problem?
No, ma'am.
You have a drinking problem?
No, ma'am.
Well, it seemed to me that if two people get loaded to the extent that they can't remember what's happening, they have a problem.
I remember everything that happened, Your Honor.
I remember everything that happened, Your Honor.
Do you?
Yes, ma'am.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Daniel?
Mechanic.
And you?
I'm a nurse.
Okay, Ms. Collins, let's hear about the assault. It happened in February of 2005?
Yes, ma'am, February 12th.
Go ahead, let me hear.
We had been going out for about a month, and we went out with some of my friends out to a couple of clubs. We both had been drinking, and then we closed the clubs and went back to his house. My intentions were just to go there and go to sleep because him and I had been arguing and been having some problems. I found out that he was married. He told me he had been married and then came out slowly telling me he's still married, in the process of getting a divorce. Then found out that they weren't in the process of getting any kind of divorce. So when we went back to his house, he was making advances towards me, to, do something sexual, and that's not what I wanted.
Yana,
so
she's lying.
Shh. You're going to have a chance later.
So
I don't want you to look down. I want you to look at me. I want to look at your eyes, Miss
Okay.
Collins. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am. Everything at this point was fine up until when he started doing that.
Well, what did you go back to his house for if you were drinking and he was drinking?
Because up until this point, there hadn't been any problems.
Well, you closed the clubs. It must have been very late.
Yeah, him and I had
Don't
been...
look down. You look at me.
Him and I had been hanging out.
Listen to me.
And
You just told me you closed the clubs, which means it was very late.
yes, ma'am.
And the two of you had been drinking. You went to more than one club.
Right.
So then why, if you didn't want to engage in any sort of intimate relationship, would you go back to his house rather than go back to your house?
Because there was no way for me to get back to my house because both of us had been drinking.
Well, how did you get to his house?
He drove. He drove. I mean, my friend's house was only a block away from his house, so, I mean, he drove.
Well, when you say you closed the clubs,
Yes.
you closed the clubs and went to your friend's house?
Yes, who lives not
Oh,
too far
just a
from the
second.
club.
Well, you didn't tell me that. You said you closed the clubs and went to his house. So you closed the clubs and went to your friend's house, who lives a block
Right.
away from him.
Right.
Why didn't you stay at your friend's house? Is not an answer.
Because we were going to spend the night together. I mean, I
Who
didn't...
was going to spend the night together?
Him and I were going to spend the night at
Well,
his
what
house.
were you going to do? Play canasta?
Just go to sleep. We were just going to go to sleep, Your Honor.
Why couldn't you go to sleep at your friend's house?
It's a party house. There was too many people there. I don't crash at party houses. I wanted to stay with who I consider my boyfriend.
Okay, I'm just getting there. All right, so now you drive to his house.
Yes.
Keep going.
Okay, so then he started coming on to me. I just wanted to go to sleep. I just wanted to go to sleep, Your Honor. And when I tried to leave, he blocked the door.
Where were you going?
I was going to call someone to come pick me up. I just wanted to leave the house and go out front, use my cell phone, call somebody to come pick me up. And he would not let me leave. He blocked the door. He pushed me down. I got up. He pushed me back down. And then he pushed me over towards the bed. Every single time when I got up, he kept pushing me down. And then that progressed. He hit me. He smacked me first. And then he hit me in the side of my head. And I tried to fight back. And then he just ended up choking me, telling me to go to sleep and that I wasn't going anywhere and cursing at me and stuff like that. And that was the last thing I remember, him telling me to go to sleep and that I wasn't going anywhere and that this is what it felt like to be strangled.
What do you mean? It was the last thing you remember. What is that? I don't understand. It's the last thing you remember.
Well, he was choking me and then when I woke up, it was about 7 o'clock in the morning.
So he choked you, you passed out, and then you woke up how many hours later?
It was probably about 4.5 hours later.
Okay, when you woke up, what did you do?
I woke him up and told him to take me to my car and that I was thinking about pressing charges against him. And he told me that it was my fault. And I didn't say anything else to him.
So where did you go?
He dropped me off at my friend's house.
A
And
block away?
yes.
Couldn't you walk there?
It's probably a little bit further than a block. It's in the same neighborhood.
Took you to your friend's house, and what happened next?
I went inside. I didn't say anything to my friends because I know if I would have told them, they probably would have.
Don't speculate what they would have done. Keep going.
Well, I didn't say anything and I left.
Where did you go?
I went home and spoke to a couple family members of mine and I explained to them what happened and they said that I should go to the hospital. I didn't want to go to the hospital because I didn't have insurance.
What were you going to the hospital for?
Because the side of my head was severely swollen and I had blood coming out of the side of my ear and my jaw wasn't meeting.
You mean and your friends didn't say anything to you when you went into the house?
I kind of hid my face a little bit.
Okay. You have photographs?
I don't have any pictures because at the time...
The answer is you don't have any photographs.
No, ma'am.
Do you have a hospital report?
Yes, I do.
I'd like to see it. Okay. Now, after this incident happened, you went out with him again.
Yes, he called me, and he seemed very genuinely sorry. He was concerned with what condition I was in when I went to the hospital and everything, and I told him I ended up having to going. I was seriously hurt.
Well, they found that you had a facial bruise. They did a CAT scan. They found nothing.
Yes, ma'am.
But the main thrust of this bill is the $2,500 CAT scan. That's what bloated it to $3,600.
Yes.
Okay. So you told him that you had this bruise, and he said...
He said that he would pay for all of it. I told him that I would feel better about him sitting in jail, and he said that I would be doing the right thing if that was the route that I took, and that he would do anything he could to make it up to me after he got out.
Fine. So when did you go out with him again?
A month later.
Why?
because the guy that I knew was very sweet and he treated me really good, and I just thought that he had an alcohol problem that changed him into somebody else.
Well, you told me about 5 minutes ago that you had been arguing with him a lot because you found that he lied to you, that he was married, that he wasn't in the process of getting a divorce, and he's a drunk, and he has blackouts or he doesn't know what he's doing, and he gets violent. All this doesn't sound to me like worthy of a second date.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I always love it when they bury themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Shooting fish in a barrel.
Shooting fish in a barrel. All you got to do is let him talk.
And later today,
What do you have that suggests that he took your car?
I specifically remember him wearing a hat, and I found this hat in the car, which is the hat that he was wearing that night.
Daniel beat her up during a night of heavy drinking.
My question to you is, you just said to me that the person that you knew, even though he lied to you about being married, he lied to you about getting a divorce, he assaulted you to the extent you had to go to the emergency room. He was a sweet guy, and you felt that it was only because of the alcohol that changed his personality. That's pretty much what you just testified to. Then why in the world would a relatively intelligent woman go out with him drinking again?
We went out to dinner, and he had only had like 1 or 2 drinks while we were sitting there having dinner.
And what about you?
Same.
You drank together.
We had
All
wine
right.
with dinner.
How about a Diet Coke? What?
What? I don't know.
Yeah, that probably
Break.
would have been the right
Give me a
thing to
break.
do.
I
You're
know.
right. You're right.
I know.
Your
They
Honor.
keep me in business, so I shouldn't complain. Now I'm up to you.
The truth of the matter.
You know me. I love the truth.
Yes, Your Honor.
If you don't tell me the truth, you're going to be eating your shoes.
Yes. Yes, Your Honor. Okay, the whole night started. We was at Mojo's. This was the club we closed. When we got in the car driving back to her friend's house, we were supposed to get in her car, but we couldn't find her keys from the incident that happened at the club with her throwing my leather coat on the floor twice to lose her keys.
Get to your house.
Okay. We get to my house. Okay. She's passed out in the car. That's why she doesn't remember how we got to my house. The point is,
Your Honor,
I
that's
took
not
her.
true.
Up. Go ahead.
She's passed out in the back seat. All right. Reason we didn't take her car, couldn't find her keys. I pick her up. I told her inside the house. I put her in the bed. I take her shoes off. I go to cut the light off. She's up and angry, yelling, screaming, pushing me. And I'm just looking at her like, where's this coming from? I wasn't to the fact that I was drunk enough not to drive. I wasn't drunk enough not to handle the situation. The fact of the matter was, she was the aggressor. She started the whole aggression. She started the whole violence of slapping, being very aggressive. It went from shoving me to pushing her, holding her, pushing her back on the bed, telling her, not do this, you're drunk, lay down, go to sleep, sleep it off, that's all it is, you're drunk. She gets back up, she slaps me. I slap her back, she punched me, I punch her back, and we go back into the whole argument of going back and forth again and again, to the fact that I hold her down on the bed and tell her and beg and plead with her not to keep being aggressive. Just lay down, go to sleep, sleep it off.
Okay.
To that point, we woke up in the morning after.
All right. So let me dissect for you, Mr. Daniel, what you have just told me. What you have just told me was that you were not so drunk that you couldn't drive.
Yes. Yes, Your Honor.
So you were sober enough to withstand the sobriety test.
Yes, Your Honor.
Fine. And she was so drunk that she was passed out in back of the car.
Yes, Your Honor.
Then you take her home, and
My
she
house.
starts to act aggressive.
Yes, Your Honor.
She punches you, you punch her back.
Yes, Your Honor.
This is the person who was so drunk, this is what you tell me, that she didn't know what was going on. You, on the other hand, are sober.
Yes, Your Honor.
I always love it when they bury themselves. Do you know what I mean?
Shooting fish in a barrel.
Shooting fish in a barrel. All you got to do is let them talk. They make up some cock and bull story, right?
Yep.
That they say, well, this is going to work. She was the aggressor. I could drive because I was okay, right? You can't assault somebody when they're so drunk that they don't know what's going on, Mr. Daniel.
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand where we're going now?
Yes, Your Honor.
You're the sober one. She's drunk. That's according to you. You're the
Yes, Your Honor.
defendant.
Yes, Your Honor.
When she punched you, you should have gotten up, should have gone downstairs, should have gotten in your car, go to a friend's house and say, listen, I'm not going to stay with this lady. She's out of it. She's assaultive. She's nuts. This is the way she gets when she's drunk. I don't want to have anything to do with her. I'm certainly not going to hit her because she doesn't know what she's doing.
Yes, Your Honor. I'm not saying I didn't make a mistake, Your Honor.
Good. Mistakes cost.
Yes, Your Honor.
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $3,600. That's all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I would describe it as her friends telling me that night that since she's drinking and she's being aggressive, that she's Diablo.
That's just something my friends say joking around. It's not even like that.
And I'm like, okay, that's the devil.
It's just my little playful nickname between my friends.
And it turned out to be that way.
The whole situation is he drank more than he could handle, and that's all it comes down to.
I learned from my mistakes.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Spandy versus Gretha, step forward, please.
Computer operator Tim Spandy is suing his daughter's former friend, 18-year-old event coordinator Tom Grether, for wrecking his wife's car. Tom says he was driving because Tim's daughter was drunk.
Mr. Spandy, this your daughter?
Yes, it is.
Your daughter was driving your car?
No, she wasn't.
Whose car was she using?
It was my wife's car.
So your daughter was driving your wife's car with your permission. She goes to a party or some sort of gathering, and this young man was there. She got too drunk to drive home. She asked him to drive home. He was also drunk. He totaled the car. You want him to pay for the car.
Yes, that's correct, ma'am.
And Mr. Grether says, well, he has certain responsibility. He doesn't have total responsibility. Your daughter has partial responsibility. Okay. When was this party?
February 13th.
At a house?
Yeah.
Did you know Mr. Grether before the party?
Yes, I did.
Okay. How much did you drink?
I think I had like 4 cups of beer.
Why did you drink if you were driving?
I was planning on staying over.
So why didn't you stay over?
Because there's some drama about missing pieces, and then all of
Missing pieces? What?
Bongs.
What is that?
Stuff you smoke marijuana out of.
There was drama about some drugs.
Yeah.
What kind of drama was there about drugs?
One kid accused one of Tom's friends of stealing piece.
So there was some drama, so you wanted to go home?
Well, because all of Tom's friends were leaving, and Tom invited us to the party. We didn't know the people whose house it was at, so we all decided to leave and go back to Tom's.
And you were too drunk to drive?
Yeah.
So you really didn't have good judgment?
Yeah.
What about Tom?
Well, my friends said they gave him a drunk test and see if he could walk a line and if he had slurred speech, and he said he stopped drinking 2 hours before that.
So you had your friends, your drunken friends, give him an alcohol sobriety test. Is that what you're telling me, Miss Spandy?
Yes.
And your slightly inebriated friends told you that he was sufficiently sober to drive your mother's car?
Yeah.
Tell me how you totaled her mother's car.
We were driving down a dirt and gravel road, and the car had spun out, and we had crashed into a tree.
All right, I will hear you.
Yeah. Before we started driving, he decided to whip a donut in a cul-de-sac, which was a dirt road. And I'm like, Tom, you need to stop. And he was like, okay, I used to drive a Ford Contour, I have total control. And so then he stops, and then he was like, hey, look at this. And I saw his hand reaching for the emergency brake, but I don't really know if he pulled it or whatever. It just happened too fast. We lost control, and then we ran into a tree.
I was only kidding. I actually never got grasped with the emergency brake. 3 other vehicles ahead of me had spun out at the exact same spot that I had spoke with afterwards. They were all driving
What I
SUVs.
don't understand, Mr. Spandy, is why you think your daughter is not at least partially responsible for what happened that night.
Well, for one thing, the defendant here, he was driving with a suspended license. He knew he was not supposed to be behind the driver's wheel at all.
He was
Your Honor.
Put your hand down. They were all drinking and doing marijuana.
I understand that.
Mr. Spandy, your daughter took her mother's car and acted irresponsibly with it. She drank. She was probably smoking marijuana. She gave the car to somebody who was given a field sobriety test by a bunch of other teenage alcoholics. And you think she bears no responsibility?
Well, he should have known right from wrong. I mean...
He was wrong. There's no question he was wrong. You don't take your mother's car and then drink.
I agree.
And you don't take your mother's car and then drink and do bongs or whatever they are. What you do is, if you think that you're going to drink, You say, Dad, would you drive me to the party and pick me up? Or if you don't intend to drink and then you go to the party and you drink, you say, give me the phone, I'm going to call my father to come pick me up. She could have done that too, right?
Yes, and that's what she's been instructed to do.
But you mean before this incident, you told her if you drink, call us, we'll come pick you up, right? So she did the wrong thing.
Yes.
That's all I'm asking you, Mr. Spandy. I'm not saying that Mr. Grether here is going to get off scot-free. But what I'm telling you is your daughter bears some responsibility for what happened that night.
I agree. I mean, she was in the wrong, but for somebody of his age, a little bit older, selling alcohol and all that other stuff
Just a
going
second.
on that.
How old is your daughter?
17.
And how old are you?
I'll be 19 in a few weeks.
Listen, she's 17, he's 18. You know how much longer it takes a boy to mature than it takes a girl to mature?
Yes.
I just want you to take a look at him. Take a look at him. You'll understand what I'm talking about.
Yes, I understand completely.
Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yes.
All right. So don't tell me that he's so much older and is selling liquor. She's 17 years old. She shouldn't be drinking 5 beers, right?
I understand that.
Bad judgment.
Yes, very.
And if you start...
May I please add on the...
Don't say anything.
Sorry.
All right. Start with this premise, Mr. Spandy. But for the fact that your daughter did the wrong thing, you would not be standing here today.
Correct.
She did the wrong thing 3 times. She took the car. She drank.
Yes.
Instead of calling you to come pick her up, she gave the car keys to him. But for her actions, he, who's not any older than she is, would not have control of the car. He didn't steal the car keys. He didn't grab them out of her pocket. She was drunk. He was drunk. They're just lucky they're not dead.
Yes.
So the car was totaled.
Yes.
Did you have insurance?
I only had liability, no collision, so the insurance company would not pay for it.
When did you purchase the car?
I purchased it 8/25/04.
And how much did you pay for it?
We paid a little over $4,300. Other charges incurred that night was towing fee and pound lot, and that was over $200.
So you paid $43 plus another $2.
Yes.
Half $4,500 is $2,250. $2,250 is his responsibility. The other $2,250 is your daughter's responsibility. I suggest that you see to it that she takes care of it.
Oh, she's already taken care of the other car we have purchased.
Good.
She's
Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $2,250. That's all.
Parties are excused. Yeah, this is case number 58 on the calendar in the matter of Domzowski versus Wilson. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Ma'am, have a seat, please.
Ms. Domzowski, according to your complaint, Mr. Wilson used to be your boyfriend. He's not your boyfriend anymore, and he assaulted you twice. After he assaulted you, I assume you had nothing to do with him.
That's correct.
How long were you involved with him before this assault?
Well, I dated him originally back when I was in high school.
How old are you now?
I'm 22. When I had first dated him, I was 16. And then we broke up, and we got back together in August 11th of 2004.
When was the assault?
January 10th, 2005.
Tell me about it.
Well, Brian and I were at a bar, and we had gotten into an argument. He mentioned something about a friend of his who I had dated while we were separated, and how he was going to come back into town, and he wanted to see how I was going to react to his friend being back in town to see if we're going to try to reunite.
Mr. Wilson, you're going to get a chance.
Okay.
Right?
Yes, ma'am.
So we were arguing about that, and I told him, I wouldn't cheat on you. I care too much about you. And so he left the bar. He wound up leaving. So I went after him to make amends,
Why would you go after him to make amends? What had you done wrong?
I hadn't done anything wrong. I was just trying to talk to him, just to make sure, that we were okay, because I didn't want it to end on that.
What had you been drinking?
A beer, a Corona.
And you?
A Corona.
How many?
I had like 1 or 2.
Let's say 2.
Okay.
What about you?
I had probably about 1.5 before I got fed up.
Let's go to 2.
2.
So you've had a couple of beers and you're arguing at the bar. You couldn't argue at home?
That's how it goes every time we went out. Every time we went out, it was a big scene.
Okay. So now you're outside trying to make amends for something that you didn't do. What happened outside?
Outside, I went to my car to retrieve his jacket because he was like, I'm walking home, and I offered him a ride, and he refused. So
what did you say? You said, don't walk, I'll drive you home?
Yes, I said, I will take you to the house. And
how far is the house from the bar?
About 5 minutes driving.
How long walking?
I don't, like a half an hour maybe. I'm not really sure.
How long a walk is it?
Oh, half hour?
Good. So we agree on that. So you wanted to walk home.
Yeah.
So even though he's walking home without his jacket, you went to the car, got his jacket, and followed him?
Yes.
Go ahead.
That's when we started arguing some more. He pushed me. I went into a tree. My face was bloody.
How did your face get bloody?
I was scratched up. He hit me.
You didn't say he hit you. You said he pushed you into a tree.
Yeah,
When did he hit you?
He pushed me into a tree and he hit me also afterwards.
He hit you with an open hand or a closed hand?
Open hand.
What happened then?
I was walking along the street by the bar and I was spitting blood. I had blood coming from my mouth. So that's when I called my sister and I needed her to come pick me up to give me a ride back to my car because I had walked a little, it was a distance when I was walking with him because we were talking.
You were talking or fighting?
Well, we were fighting.
Go ahead.
And I was crying, spitting up blood. My face was all bloody, so I had my sister come pick me up.
How long did it take her to get there?
She was at the bar as well, so it took her like 2 minutes. She was there real quick because she heard how upset I was.
So you and your sister came in two separate cars?
Yes.
She came, picked you up in her car, and what did you do when she picked you up in the car?
She was cleaning my face. We cleaned my face off.
And then?
And then I went back over to the house to collect my belongings to leave. And he came in, he had a piece of pizza in the microwave, and he intentionally threw it.
Just a sec, hold it. You're home first, is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
And then he came home?
He came home while I was packing my belongings.
How did the pizza get into the microwave?
The pizza was already there, Your Honor.
Pizza was in the house already, and he was taking it out to heat it up?
Yes.
So he heated up the pizza in the microwave. Go ahead.
And then we continued arguing, and that's when he intentionally threw the pizza at my face.
How did he do that?
He had the pizza in his hand, and he threw it.
And it hit your face, and it burned your face?
Yes.
Okay. So he left the bar, Amy, to get away from the argument and was walking home. So what I want to know is how the argument continued.
We were arguing about financial problems.
How did it start? Who said what to whom?
I believe it was I who had said something in regards to the financial.
That sounds right. So what did you say financial?
Basically that I do a lot for him and he doesn't respect me. You know, basically trying to show him that why would I cheat on him when I'm going grocery shopping, all the bills are in my name.
So you wanted to continue the discussion?
Yes.
You weren't
I wasn't trying to argue.
You wanted to continue the discussion, not just pack up and leave, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, and he's sitting there. He's not saying a word to you.
No, he was saying things.
Not before you approached him to start the discussion again, right? I'm just figuring out what's happening here, Amy.
Okay, that's correct.
Do you understand? Mm-hmm. I'm not making any excuses for him if he hurt you. I want you to get real with what was happening that night. What was happening that night was you weren't letting it go. Because if you're assaulted and you call your sister because you were so upset and your sister comes to get you in the car, then you say to her, do me a favor, follow me to Mom's house because I'm going to stay there. Tomorrow I'll get the police and go over and pick up my stuff. But if you want to go back and continue the discussion with him, and you knew he was going home because he said, I don't want to talk to you anymore. I don't want to be involved with you anymore. I'm walking home to cool off. So you knew he was going home and you followed him home.
No, because I figured that I would get there quicker than he would and have my stuff already packed and ready to leave.
So let's see what we have. We have a timeline here. You call your sister on the phone. She has to get out to the parking lot, get into her car, start the car, come and pick you up. A couple of minutes. Then you said she helped clean you up because you were bleeding. Let's say that took another 10 minutes. So now you got 5 minutes before he's going to be home.
Yes, Your Honor.
And you go home anyway. So you expected him to be home. There's no question in my mind. So don't tell me you didn't expect him to be home yet. You expected him to be home. And you wanted to continue the discussion because you weren't ready to let it go.
Because I didn't want to be accused of something that I would never do.
What difference does it make? Somebody hits you in the face, as you allege he hit you in the face. Who cares whether he accuses you of being Mata Hari? What difference does it make? You want to get away from him.
Yes.
You don't go back into a situation where there's been, according to you, violence, and start the discussion all over again by telling him, why would I want to do something bad to you? I cook for you, I clean for you, I work for you, I do everything else for you. That's what you were telling him, right?
Yes. Why would you do this to me? Basically, that's what I was trying to say, Your Honor.
What difference does it make?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
How old are you?
27.
27. I'm a few years older than you are.
You don't look
And
it.
you're very, very sweet, Mr. Wilson. It's not going to help you any.
And later today,
You could have been married to this warped thinking, allowed children to reproduce with this warped thinking. So I want you to consider yourself very lucky.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Amy Dumslowski says ex-boyfriend Brian Wilson owes for burning her face with a slice of pizza. Brian says the argument started when he saw Amy dancing with another man.
Now the ball is in your court, Mr. Wilson. Don't smile at me, because let me explain something to you. How old are you?
27.
27. I'm a few years older than you are.
You don't look
and
it.
You're very, very sweet, Mr. Wilson. It's not going to help you any. And you know how long I've been eating pizza? A lot longer than you have. I never knew a pizza to fly off a plate and hit somebody in the face. How many flying pizzas did you know in your years? Never.
0.
We never knew a flying pizza. So with that in mind, Mr. Wilson, let's go back to, you're in the bar with Miss Amy.
Right.
Both had a couple of beers. Now.
I saw her dancing with somebody on the dance floor. I didn't want to stand for it, so I left the bar.
So you saw her dancing with somebody?
Right. Supposedly it was just a friend, but, you know, I don't know that friend, so it makes me feel uncomfortable. So I left the bar. I'm walking down the street. She comes running up behind me, you know, hit me, trying to pull on my shirt. She actually ripped the shirt that I had underneath my button-up shirt.
Well, tell me what she said to you as she was pulling on your shirt.
What the is my problem? Why are you leaving? You know, so as I'm walking home, she's still pulling at me, you know, yelling, you know, because when she drinks and is under the influence of other drugs, you know, she's a live wire.
Was she under the influence of other drugs?
I say so.
What other drug?
Marijuana.
Did you see her smoking marijuana that day?
Yeah.
Were you smoking marijuana
No.
that day? But she was.
Right.
Okay, keep going.
So as we continue to the house, finally, you know, she gave up, you know, after my shirt's ripped. She goes back to the car.
So you don't know anything about hitting her in the face?
I didn't. She might have caught like some buttons from trying to pull on my shirt and me just defending myself to, you know, just so I can walk home and avoid the whole situation, because we could have fought if we really wanted to fight in the bar.
Okay.
You know, but that's the whole reason why I walked home, so I didn't have to do that.
Go ahead.
So then once we get home, I'm already home and sitting in the living room. She comes in and it continues again. She's not trying to talk it out or anything like that. She's yelling. You know, a little pushing, a little, you know, I got the pizza in my hand.
Now let's go through this slowly.
No problem.
Little pushing. How did the pushing get started?
Defense pushing. Like defense pushing, you know. When she talks to you here. She don't talk to you from a distance. You
so
know,
you're pushing her away from you.
Right, as I'm walking from the kitchen to the living room, back and forth. So finally I had the plate in my hand, and, you know, she's trying to, you know, tangle with me, and it accidentally hit her in the face.
I assume you felt very sorry when you found out she had been burned.
I drove her to the hospital the next day.
Is that right?
No. I called him when he was at work, and I said, I need to go to the hospital. And he said, well, come pick me up from work, and we can go to the hospital.
Had you stayed at your mother's that night?
Yes.
Who else lives in your mother's house?
My mom, my stepbrother, and my stepfather.
They couldn't take you to the hospital?
No, I was going to go by myself, and he said, I'll go with you, because he felt bad.
Why would you want the person who assaulted you to go with you to the hospital?
He said he would go with me.
And when you got to the hospital, what happened?
They looked at it. They said it looked really bad. They referred me to a plastic surgeon.
Did he just take you to the hospital and take you back to your mother's house?
I was driving, so I took him back to his house. We went and got the prescription filled.
So first you went and got the prescription filled?
Yes.
And then you drove him back to his house?
Mm-hmm.
What happened when you got back to your house?
Nothing. Everything was ordinary. It was just an ordinary day, watching TV, hanging out.
The two of you?
Yeah, making plans for the weekend.
What plans were you making for the weekend, Amy?
We weren't making plans for the weekend.
What were you doing that afternoon?
We were just talking, and he was telling me how sorry he was and that he would pay my bill for me, my hospital bill.
That takes 2 seconds. How long were you there?
Probably like an hour, 2 hours, not even.
She was there all day, because I remember, because she had to put the ointment in my bathroom, and she had to put it on. So she even slept over.
She did?
Right. She had to put the ointment on at my house and get salt water and pour it on the burn, things like that. And she did that all at my house.
Amy, do you have any unreimbursed medical bills?
I have my medical bill right here.
How much was the medical bill?
$377.38.
How much do you owe on it?
The full amount, I haven't paid it because he said he was going to pay it.
Well, I think you should pay it. But you're suing him for $5,000.
Pain and suffering. Every time I look at my... And I'm going to need plastic surgery. I haven't even went to the plastic surgeon and even got an amount estimated.
Well, then I can't help you with that, my dear. I can't help you with something that is speculative. What I don't understand is, if someone is frightened that someone is abusive and assaultive, they don't call them the next day to go to the hospital. They don't have them take them for the prescription when they have a sister and a mother and a stepfather and a brother and alternatives. Do you understand?
Yes, I understand that.
Good.
I was just calling him to tell him that I needed to go to the hospital, how severe it really was. That's the only reason why I called him, and he said, I'll go with you.
You don't call.
And
the only call you make is to the police. Did you do that?
No, because he has a son. I didn't want anything to happen.
Amy, he's going to pay your medical bill. You have a $377 medical bill. Your pain and suffering you're going to have to live with. I assume that you're not together anymore. Is that right?
Not at all.
Very good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $377. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Obviously, yeah, he did push me into a tree.
Oh, that's not true.
I didn't fall into a tree.
She was drunk.
I wasn't drunk. 2 beers, come on.
Slipped and fell, I guess.
You don't hurt the people that you love.
Eat pizza, don't throw it.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Youngman versus Caffey. Step forward, please.
22-year-old emergency medical technician Thomas Youngman is suing his ex-girlfriend, 21-year-old bank teller Jacqueline Caffey, for the balance on a car and bank overdraft fees. Jacqueline claims Thomas paid off the car note without consulting her.
Mr. Youngman, Miss Caffey was your girlfriend for a while, and in 2003, according to your complaint, you were foolish enough to co-sign for a car loan for her.
Yes, ma'am.
And when you co-signed for the loan, it was her car. The car was titled in your name, is that right?
Yes.
And she agreed to make the payments on the car.
Yes, ma'am.
And she did make the payments on the car until when?
Until the car got totaled. There was one last payment to make after the insurance paid it off.
And how much was that one last payment?
$550.
Your complaint is that Ms. Caffrey decided not to make the last payment. You had already broken up at this point. And
Correct.
how long had you been apart?
We'd been apart for almost a year and a month.
And you knew nothing about the car because it was her car and she was making the payments.
Correct.
After she totaled the car and stopped making the payments, they came after you because you were the co-signer on the car, and they took the money out of your bank account. How much did they take out?
$550.20-something.
Then can you explain why you're suing her for $2,000?
Because there were some late fees acquired with that, in the negative balance fees.
Okay. And how much were the negative balance fees?
$100.
Anything else?
My credit was damaged, so I figured the rest of it could be for that.
Okay. Now, Ms. Caffrey, you say you've paid enough, and he co-signed for the car, and therefore it was his responsibility. I'd like you to explain that to me.
He co-signed for it. I have the proof of it.
There's no question he co-signed for it.
He co-signed for a car loan, and I made every single payment. This was a $13,000 loan, and he paid $500, and late fees, $650. And he drove the car, too, when we were together.
You mean in 2003?
Yes.
So what you're saying is he drove the car in 2003, and therefore it was his responsibility to make the last payment.
I don't owe him anything. He paid.
Would you do me a favor and answer my question?
Yes.
I'll decide whether you owe him something or not. I'm trying to figure out your defense. Tell me what your defense is.
I do not owe him because he...
That's a conclusion. That's a legal conclusion, that you do not owe him. So far, we have the following set of facts stipulated. He agreed to co-sign a loan on your promise that you would make the payments on the car. That fact is buttressed by the fact that you did, in fact, make payments on the car consistently, even after the two of you were no longer together. You made the payments on the car consistently, which supports his statement that you promised to make the payments until you totaled the car. Then you stopped. There was still a payment owing, $550. Now I'd like your defense as to why you do not owe that $550.
I had called the bank over and over and tried to figure out how much I owed, and by the time I figured out how much was owed, because they kept telling me different numbers of how much was owed, and then she said, we'll just hold off on the payment and we'll get back to you on it. So when I finally got the letter in the mail that I owed $550. He had already paid it. I didn't ask him to pay it. He had already chosen himself to go ahead and pay it.
They took it out of his bank account.
That's not what, when I asked her and he told me that they froze his account, that never happened.
I want to tell you something. Mr. Youngman,
Yes, ma'am.
you're going to get your money.
Okay.
You are also a very, very fortunate man. Do you understand?
Yes, ma'am.
Really lucky. You
Thank
could have been married to this warped thinking, allowed children to reproduce with this warped thinking. So I want you to consider yourself very lucky. Okay?
Thank you.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $650. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Damon versus Ressa, step forward, please.
21-year-old bartender Amber Damon is suing her former friend, 21-year-old subcontractor Samuel Ressa, for crashing her car, forcing her to drop out of fashion school.
According to what I read in your complaint, on the evening of January 26, 2005, you were all out drinking. You had a car. You drove to a bar. You were drinking and had too much to drink. A lot of other people were drinking too. Somebody wanted to go home. Somebody by the name of Jason. Who's Jason? Raise your hand. You still drink, Jason?
Yes.
Yeah. How did I know that? How did I know that? Jason wanted to go home. You told the defendant, could you take him home? And you gave the defendant your car keys to take Jason home.
He'd already had the car keys.
Whatever. He didn't steal the car keys from you. You gave him the keys. He took Jason home, came back to the bar,
Yes, Your Honor.
and that's the last time you saw your car. The car was subsequently found. It was wrecked a little bit, and it was taken to impound, and you couldn't get your books and stuff for school out of the trunk so that you couldn't go to school, and you ended up losing tuition because you ended up backing out of school for that semester. A whole series of events that you believe should be visited on Mr. Reese's doorstep, right?
Correct.
Because he didn't take good care of the car.
Yes.
Was the car a used car?
Yes.
Was it insured?
Mm-hmm.
Did you get insurance money for it?
No, because the towing place sold it without the lien notice, so they're going to end up having to pay for it.
So you're off the hook with regard to the car.
Yes.
So all you're suing him for is for the trauma that you incurred as a result of missing school because you couldn't get to your books that were inside the car.
Yes. There's more to it than that, though.
Let's hear it fast.
Well, we would go out every Wednesday, and I'd had a couple beers, so I didn't feel comfortable driving. And I thought I was being responsible by asking him to take Jason over to our house. And then he came back safe and sound, and later on I didn't plan on leaving, so I didn't ask for my keys back or anything, and he had wanted to leave, but I just assumed that he was getting a ride or whatever, and he apparently took my car.
It's not what he says. He says he walked home. It was a couple of blocks away.
Yes, Your Honor.
I have stuff, maybe not proving, but it really looks like he took my car.
Well, what do you have that suggests that he took your car later?
Well, I was going to fashion design school, so I remember what people wear, and I specifically remember him wearing a hat when he came back after dropping Jason off, and I found this hat in the car, which is the hat that he was wearing that night.
Miss Damon, I want you to listen to me very carefully, my dear. There is no question in my mind that under the scenario that you gave me, that you had given him the keys to the car, and that was the last time you saw the car, and the car had in fact been in an accident. I think I would have been prepared, despite the fact that Mr. Risa says I walked home, to say it was your responsibility to safeguard this car. Based upon what I read in the papers, the car was found with the keys in the car, right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Therefore, if somebody found the keys, they had to be very smart to find the keys and say, I think I want to go try the ignitions of all the cars, and I'm going to go check all the cars and see if any of this fits. So I think I would have been able to say, with a fair degree of certainty, that the defendant was responsible for your car. But you have no out-of-pocket expenses for your car. You want him to pay for your school tuition. And I'm telling you, Miss Damon, you have to be more resourceful, my dear. There are methods that you can use to get your books out of the trunk of the car so that you can study and go to school without dropping out of school. That's not his fault.
There was no way that I could get them because they were no longer there. And there was also the police department was throwing me around too because it wasn't registered in my name yet because I hadn't even made a payment on it. I just bought in the car, not even a month before that. So they were telling me I wasn't even going to be able to look at it.
Well, you managed to get the hat. Did you go to your teachers and say, listen, I need a little time, I have to get new books?
We were almost to midterms and all of the projects led off of each other. So there was no way that I could make them up, and they told me I had to withdraw for that semester.
That's not Mr. Reese's fault, Ms. Thaman. I can't legitimately find that your dropping out of school was the proximate cause of Mr. Reese's actions. It doesn't work that way. You have to take a certain amount of responsibility for taking your car, drinking, giving the keys to somebody else. That's partially your responsibility. I would have said Mr. Reese was responsible if he had any out-of-pocket expenses for the car, but not for your school tuition. Sorry, case is dismissed.
Thank you, Why is that excused, Mr.? Yeah, this is case number 83. Excuse me, 83 on the calendar in the matter of Sandoval versus Alvarez. Parties have been sworn in. You may be seated. Sir, have a seat.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
And you were working at the same place where Mr. Alvarez was working. What do you do for a living?
I was a server. First, I started as a hostess, and I ended up as a server.
And what about Mr. Alvarez?
He was my manager.
Now, you decided to join an employee program, but not an official program, for savings.
Yeah.
Tell me how it worked.
It's kind of like something to save money. The person in charge gets 10 people together. And Johan right here was the person in charge of it. He got 10 people to participate. Then after you get the 10 people to commit to it, you get numbers, you put them in a cup, everybody gets their number. Each paycheck, you will have to give in $100. The first time you put in the $100, number one gets $1,000. Next paycheck, everybody puts in another $100, number two gets their part of the money. I was number 11. I was the last number in it because I was planning to save my money to purchase a car.
So he was in it too?
Yeah, he was number one.
He was number one?
Yes.
Did we all draw at the same time?
No, he said since he was the person in charge, he will receive his money first, and everybody else got a number. Actually, with me, I requested number 11, so I know that by the end of it, I would have my money and I didn't have to go back and finish paying anybody.
And how much money did you put in?
$1,000.
But you quit your job before you had actually accumulated $1,000.
Yeah, I actually quit when I was, I believe, in number 3. But I also talked to him and I told him I will be responsible enough to bring the $1,000 every date that it was supposed to be.
You mean
due.
$100?
Yeah, the $100.
And did you do that?
Yes, every time.
Who did you give the money to when you came back each week?
Okay, the next two numbers, he was there when I went to go drop off the money.
Yes.
So I gave him to him personally, and I asked him, since I don't work here anymore, for my safety, in case any problems happen, I would like you to sign my paper every time I give you the money.
And did he do that?
Yeah, he signed 1 through 5, all the times that I showed up that he was there. But after the 5th time, I believe he started getting weekends off, which was the days we were supposed to turn in the money. We got paid on Friday, so you would have 2 days after that to turn in your money, which was Saturday or Sunday. And then after that, I would go to the restaurant and just give it to the person personally because we had a list, and I knew exactly who was next and who was supposed to get the money, so I would go and give it personally to the person. But when it was my turn to give the money to, I talked to Johan and told him, when can I go pick up my money? And I never got my money, so I went on Sunday.
Well, what did Mr. Alvarez say when you said, I want my money now?
Oh, well, actually, this was his excuse. He told me, Soma, you know what? I'm having problems with the money. So I told him, I understand problems happen. And he actually gave me his word that 100% that he was going to have it for the 29th.
29th of what month?
April. Actually, I showed up on the 31st, 2 days after. And I asked him if he had my money. But he had called me already, which I didn't check my voicemails, telling me he had a problem. So I was like, oh, man, we just...
Well, what did he tell you the problem was this time?
He claimed that he got pulled over by the cops and that he didn't know he had a restriction order for his arrest because something had happened with his license or something, and that they took him into jail and he had to pay a bail out of $1,000, which he had to use my money to get out. So I said, that's not my problem. I need...
How are you, ma'am? How you doing?
Don't ask me how I'm doing.
Okay. To begin with, when we joined this saving, Everybody was aware of it. That
Don't tell me what everybody was aware of. Where's her money?
I told them.
Where's her money?
The money, I do not owe her anything. Okay, I told her and I begin with to everybody, whoever's going to quit the job is not going to receive the money. I'm not going to be responsible.
Just a second. Okay.
Okay.
So shh, please, don't speak. Now it's Mr. Alvarez's turn. So let me take your hands off your hips.
Okay.
So let me understand. You say that you explained to everybody
Exactly.
that you say that you explained to everybody that if they quit the company, they lost their money. Is that what you say?
Yes, ma'am.
And Miss Sandoval was told that if she left the company, she would lose her money.
Right. I would.
That's what you.
Right.
Is that
That's
what you just told
said.
me?
Yes.
When did you leave the company? I think I don't have the exact date, but I believe it was after the third number. Actually, it was a day after New Year's. I remember.
So the beginning of January 2005. Yeah. When had you started to put in your money?
I started 11/26/04.
Do you get paid every week or every 2 weeks?
Every 2 weeks.
Every 2 weeks. So what we're talking about is the entire month of December, which is when you would have put in your money.
Yes.
Minimally 2, maybe 3
Yeah, around there.
times you contributed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Is that correct so far, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Now let me see where you say he signed off on the money. Well, Mr. Alvarez, you gave her what amounts to a receipt for 5 payments.
Yeah, exactly. I told her.
Shut.
Okay.
Mr. Alvarez, let's recap what you just told me, sir. You told me that you explained to Miss Sandoval that if she left the company, she would lose her money.
Right.
She left the company after putting in 3 payments.
Yes. Then we had a
I'm
talk.
speaking.
Okay.
But then you accepted 2 more payments from her after she left the company, sir.
Yeah, because we had a talking.
No, we didn't.
Just a second. Well, now he's changing it, you see. Now he's changing it.
I'm not changing. I did not finish. You didn't let me finish what I
You finished enough, sir.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. And later today,
They were peeing on her mattress.
We do not know that for sure.
Listen to me, sir. You know why I know that for sure? Because I don't think she peed on her own mattress.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Salma Sandoval says former co-worker Johan Alvarez scammed her out of $1,000.
Mr. Alvarez, are you trying to tell me that you never said to Miss Sandoval, because it's very easy for me to figure out, and it's very easy for me to find out by picking up the phone and calling the police, that you never said to her, I got pulled over by the police,
Sure.
and I needed $1,000 in bail?
Yes, I did.
Now, why in the world, Mr. Alvarez, would you tell her that you needed $1,000 bail if you didn't have her $1,000?
I had the money with me, okay?
No. Shh. No. Now we're getting somewhere, madam. Go ahead. You had the money
I
with
had
you.
the money, and I told her when I did call her, I said, I'm going to set up a day with you so I can give you the money because I don't want nobody to come
Just a
to my
minute.
job.
So now you acknowledge that she put in $1,000 to the savings plan.
No, I'm not acknowledge it. She was giving the money to somebody else.
I don't care who she was giving it to, sir.
Well, she was not giving it to me.
I don't care if she was giving it to you or not. The money was turned over to numbers 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. It was now her time. She has turned in the money so that everybody got paid in full $1,000. Now you've got the $1,000 and you get pulled over by the police.
I did not have the $1,000 with me. I told her that I was going to be responsible to give the money so we could get over with it. Because she was calling me on the phone and harassing me. She went to my job. She bring the boyfriend out there that she has. She bring him to
Did
try to
you
fight.
use $1,000 for bail?
No. Not her money. It was my money.
Just a second.
It was my money.
No, it wasn't.
It was
you got
my
your money already.
No, it was my money. Okay, so...
Mr. Alvarez?
Yes, ma'am.
She's telling me the truth, that you told her, I had your money, but I got into trouble and I needed to use the $1,000 for bail. She didn't make that up, sir.
Your Honor, I did have money on me. Okay, I did not have to use her money.
Shh.
The only thing was she was coming to me, she was harassing me on my job. She went to tell everybody on my job that I was a thief and I'm stealing money.
You are. You took her money. You took her money.
Ma'am, and then she didn't stop that. She went to the president of the company to tell him.
Good for you. Good for you.
Exactly.
Because he told me that he was going to lend them the money.
And then the president of the company called me and said, get it over with, I don't want to hear it.
And I'm telling you the same thing, my dear.
And then
the first person who got paid this $1,000 was who?
It was me.
And the last person that's going to get paid this $1,000 is her. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I knew he was going to try to lie. He lied to me more than 5 times.
He went to try to intimidate me, I guess.
I didn't threaten him. What I told him was he needed to cop up money.
I feel like he didn't try to scam me, but he got caught up in a way where he wasted the money. He had no way of paying me, so he had to find different excuses.
And now the next case.
All parties in the matter of Krill versus Sheets, step forward, please.
19-year-old leasing agent Jennifer Krill is suing her ex-roommate, 21-year-old sales associate Christopher Sheets, for damage to their apartment and for his share of their security deposit.
All right, Miss Krill, let me see if I understand what this rental situation was about. You were doing some part-time work in the leasing office of an apartment complex. In exchange for that, instead of giving you a salary, they gave you an apartment.
Correct.
And you decided that you would supplement your income by bringing in a roommate, Mr. Sheets, who I assume you knew from someplace,
yes.
Right?
Mutual friends.
And he would pay you a small amount of, like $100.
Yes.
And he moved in. He said, that sounds like a great idea to me. He gave them a check for the security deposit. And then, according to you, there was a misunderstanding. Mr. Sheets says that he had heard that you were bad-mouthing him, whatever. He didn't want to live there anymore. He moves out, and it is your claim that the $300 check for the security deposit bounced, that he did some damage to the apartment and some damage to your personal property.
Yes.
Mr. Sheets does not address the bounced check, and yet he acknowledges that he caused some damage to the apartment.
Correct.
And says to take it out of the security deposit.
Yeah.
So, let's cut to the chase. Where did you get this $300 check for?
At the time, my father and I had agreed that he would pay $300 for the security deposit.
And you wrote a check.
Correct.
What happened with that check?
My father and I have been disagreeing with each other lately, and then finally he said, I've had enough of it, and canceled the check.
So what you're telling me is your father stopped payment on the check?
The check had already been cashed, and I had been informed that by the leasing agent. My dad had reported it stolen or forged.
Because you...
Oh, just a second. Here we go. Now it gets more interesting, because this is the only interesting part so far of this case.
Yeah.
Your father reported the check stolen?
Correct.
And forged?
Correct.
So he wanted you arrested?
Well, he didn't want that, but he wanted to get it settled.
He didn't think that she forged the check?
Yeah.
Right.
You forged the check?
It wasn't, I didn't forge the check at the time.
He said that you forged the check.
I had turned in a check in his name, correct.
How did it end up that they no longer have $300 of the security deposit?
They should still have it. When I called the apartment complex manager, I told her that I wanted my security deposit back.
Let me see. Can I see that, please?
This is the check that has stolen and forged on it, and he forged his father's signature. I actually talked to his dad.
Oh, I see that the bank marked it stolen, do not present again.
Correct. His father called the bank and canceled the check that he forged.
Correct. I'm not denying that.
So that the rental company did not cash the check.
We cashed it, and then we got it back because obviously we can't have that money
So they
anymore.
gave the money back to him?
Yes, they had to. Because
see.
he did not sign the check.
Okay.
Jennifer Krill says ex-roommate Christopher Sheets damaged their apartment and her personal belongings. Jennifer claims Christopher punched holes in the walls and ruined her mattress.
Mr. Sheets, you're no longer living there, so you don't have to pay the security deposit.
Correct.
Let's start with that. Don't say correct. I'm giving you a gift here, sir. But you do have to pay for the damage you did to the apartment.
Which I had explained to the leasing agent that I would take full responsibility for the damage that I had done.
Good. What did you do?
I had put a hole in the wall. I had also put a hole in the door in my room.
That sounds like a lot more than $300 to me.
It was $25 a hole is what I was told by her.
You have a bill for the damage that he did to the apartment, please, Miss Krill? $120, Spring Lakes Apartments. That's what you owe for the holes. And then, from your Oh, well, listen to me. You're going to pay your own security deposit.
Okay, I was just giving that to you.
That's fair, right? You're there, you pay the security deposit. He's going to pay for the damage you did. Now the place is damage-free. Any other damage you cause while you're there, you pay for.
Yes.
I'm a reasonable person. Okay. Now, Miss Krill, you claim that Mr. Sheets damaged some of your property.
Yes. When I got back to the apartment about 2 in the morning with my friend Katie here,
Had there been an argument?
Yes, actually, he called me on the phone, on my cell phone, and he's yelling and screaming at me.
What is he yelling?
You know, how could you talk crap about me, da-da-da.
She was saying that you were living sort of off of her?
Correct. She was taking full advantage of her having the apartment for free and using it against me.
Using it against you by saying you're living there, you weren't paying enough.
Right.
I get a rent-free apartment, but I am working 20 hours a week for it, and he pays me $150 a month.
Yes.
And pays for food, and that's not a bargain.
So you were saying he got a bargain?
Yes.
And you took offense at that?
When she uses it against me is when I took
How did she use it against you?
Ruining my reputation between friends.
By saying what, Mr.
Just talking trash behind my back. It happened several occasions.
All right, now you're not living together anymore. Come on, fill me in. It's late. I have things to do.
Then he called me yelling on my phone. I went back to my apartment with Katie, only to find him and his friends throwing things down the stairs. There's mattresses, bed frames, boxes everywhere in the road. One of the neighbors in my apartment building.
Stuff.
Yes, his stuff. They called the cops because, it was a whole bunch of commotion. And I tried to go confront Chris. I'm like, what's going on? What's happening? He doesn't even want to talk to me. He's like, I'm moving out. That's it. Da-da-da. I'm like, okay. Can't stop him.
Can you tell me, please, what property you allege that he damaged that belongs to you? He already has to pay $120.
He urinated on my mattress, which was about $400.
Well, how do you know it was him?
I have pictures.
That's not my question. How did you know it was him?
Well, he was moving out all the stuff with 2 of his friends, so, he had the problem with me.
Let me see.
These are all the pictures.
So what you're claiming is it was either Mr. Sheets or one of his friends?
Yes.
He took all the food in the refrigerator?
Yes, everything.
Get over it. What else? I got the mattress and the holes.
The food, but that wasn't in the charge. That's the main things.
Let's talk about the mattress, Mr. Sheets.
I did not do that, Your Honor. I did not see anybody do that. I was out going to get a truck when I came back.
Were things being thrown out of the apartment, your things?
My items, yes.
Your items.
They were getting it out as fast as possible.
What time of the day or night was that happening,
It
Mr.
was
Sheets?
about 2:15 in the morning, I do believe.
Sir, so what you're telling me is at 2:15 in the morning in this apartment complex, you're throwing things down the stairs. There are other people that live there, is that right?
Correct.
That's not very mature, Mr. Sheets.
They were moving the things out while I was going to get a vehicle to take all the things to my new...
Well, you selected people who were not very mature to
I
do
agree.
the job, right?
Yes.
And if you select people that aren't very mature to move you out, and they are acting in an immature, rowdy fashion, whose responsibility is that?
Mine.
Right on. And while you were out getting a truck to take this stuff out of there that they were throwing down the stairs, you know what else they were doing? They were peeing on her mattress.
See, we do not know that for sure.
No, listen to me, sir. You know why I know that for sure? Because I don't think she peed on her own mattress. Listen to me very carefully, sir. When you invite people to do a job and you don't supervise them, and you do it in an irresponsible manner at 2 o'clock in the morning, you have to assume the responsibility for everything bad that happens. How much was the mattress?
About $400.
What do you mean about $400?
My father bought it for me about 2 years ago.
Will you find another one for $200? Anything else, Miss Krill?
Yes, ma'am. He also urinated on about $100 worth of my clothes that were laying below my bed.
Where are they?
They're not with me anymore. I threw them away.
$320. Get over it. That's all. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Parties are excused. You may step out. This is case number 3 on the calendar in the matter of Hargrave versus Kirkendall. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated. Gentlemen, have a seat, please.
Mr. Hargrave, you own a store. Is
Yes,
it
I
a
do.
check cashing store or a convenience store?
Convenience store, Your Honor.
And you know the defendant for some time.
Yes, Your Honor.
She would come in, according to you, and cash checks. Other than buying things there, she would cash checks. And
Her and her
you would
husband, Your
cash
Honor.
checks for
Yes.
her.
Yes, Your Honor.
And your complaint is that she came in with a large check,
Yes, Your Honor.
$2,500, that you cashed for her,
Yes, Your Honor.
and it turned out to be a bad check.
Yes, Your Honor.
Ms. Kirkendall says that she is sorry about that, but that she was the victim of a scam, and she didn't know the check was bad, and she's sorry.
Well, Your
okay?
Honor.
That's what the case is about. So I'm going to have to start with you. There are certain facts that I gather are not in dispute. A, there was a check for $2,500. You brought that check to the plaintiff, and the plaintiff cashed that check and gave you $2,500.
Not, he didn't give it to me. It was sent Western Union that day.
He made out a money order?
Yeah, Western Union order.
He did?
First of all, I don't know this gentleman. I haven't seen him in the store.
Oh, he's the owner of the store, I
Okay.
assume.
Yes, sir.
And it was not him, but another employee that works in the store.
Now you're going to tell me about the scam, Miss Kirkendall.
Okay, the girl that caught me off guard received a letter.
What do you mean the girl that caught you off guard?
The girl that sent the letter. She previously called.
What are you talking about?
How I got the check. How it all started.
Well, you're starting in the middle of a sentence. The girl caught you off guard. I don't understand that.
Heavy depression. I just lost my 21-year-old son. So I received this letter during the depression.
You received the letter in the mail?
Right.
Let me see the letter.
And that's the death certificate to prove that my son did.
I don't need the death certificate. It has nothing to do with this case. Well, first of all, I'm reading this letter, and this letter, dated January 17th, 2005, is allegedly from somebody by the name of Sherry, who is telling you from Australia that you have won $50,000. However, Sherry is illiterate. You're not illiterate, are you?
No.
All right. I'm just reading a paragraph to you from this letter. So I'm mailing in regards to know why you have not made any effort to claim your money. So I'm mailing in regards to know why.
Right.
I don't know why somebody will wait that long to claim their money, T-H-E-R-E. Their money. You responded to this letter? Just a second. I mean, it gets worse.
Yeah, it does.
To elaborate more, this draw was held in Australia. And if we don't hear from you in 3 days, your file will be closed, C-L-O-S-E, and you will no longer be able to claim your winnings. Okay. Go ahead. So you got this letter, and then they tell you what? They tell you that they're going to send you a check for $2,550, and you have to cash that check and send them back a money order. Is that what happened?
Yeah.
Is that what happened? So they send you a check for $2,550. You take that check from the same person, from Sherry, from Sherry, this illiterate, and you take it to this man's store.
I called the bank.
You called what bank?
I called the bank that the check was drawn on.
Let me see.
This is the second check she sent me. The first check came back clear. The bank said it was good and everything.
Well, show me. Show me where the bank said it was good.
Well, I don't.
Show me. Show me the bank.
It was all done verbally because we went. No, my dear. I called on the phone and I went to the bank to cash it at the bank because they said it was good.
So why didn't they take care of it there?
Because they wanted me to open an account. I didn't have an account with them. And they said any check cashing place would do it. So that's when I went to the store.
No. So then you took it there.
And they called on it.
Who called on it? Did somebody from your end call on it?
Yes, Your Honor. We called. What it was is we can't verify that there's funds in the account. We can verify that that individual is in good standing with the bank. Being that she has such a history cashing checks with us, she cashed one September of 03 for $2,800. So we couldn't verify that there was funds in there, but we took her word for it.
What do you mean you took her word for it?
We asked her, if this check comes back, will you be able to, honor it? If for any reason something happens to it.
Sir, that's a lot of baloney. First of all, you can't testify to that because you weren't there. You didn't deal with her. This man didn't deal with her.
Actually, I
Where
was
is
there,
the
Your Honor.
What?
I was there. He authorized me cashing the check. Mike, another one of my associates.
She says you weren't there.
Have you read the police report, Your Honor? I
No,
don't think
let
she
me
knows
see it.
what was going on.
Let me see it. You were there? You were present?
Oh, yes, Your Honor.
Oh, okay. Well, she says you weren't, so I was under the impression
Mike was
you weren't
the individual that sent the Western Union.
there. Who are you, sir?
I'm her husband.
Oh, I'd like to see you. Get up. What do you do for a living, sir?
I'm an electrician.
You read English?
Yes, I do.
Did you read this letter? Just a second. You read this letter that looks as if it was written by some illiterate?
We made fun.
अच्छा मतलब कि आज बिजली बंद नहीं हुई है तू तां वास्ते आज जल्दी है
जल्दी की तो मैं टाइम दे
हाँ हाँ चंगा टाइम है
5 मिनट करे यार बस
मैं देखा जी कल सुम दे थे ही खड़े हुए हाँ
मेरे पानी की घाट लगे तभी रात 11 बजे आए थे पायो दुकान में
केड़े दे
एक ही घर कटाई करे मेरे पितरे
जेड़ा वो है पिया बस वो तो रोज तो पहले निकल रहे थे
पर वो भी घर चाव घर करे ना उसने में तब वो प्यार साथी थे तो उन्हें से लेना खड़ा पानी की ये कल बिजली आज मिलेगी तो पानी गई इसमें तक डर ही रहेगा आज वैसे हूं
नहीं वैसे तो कहां को पूछा है
यार व्हाट्सएप पे ग्रुप में सर्टिफिकेट बंदा है वो तभी कर रही थी कि ये आज भी सारा वो वजह तक कटा थी कल भी सारा वो तभी कर रही थी कभी फोन पर जो थी ये इस जगह थी भाई बाहर होना चलो भी गर्मी है या बारिश आ गई नारी चले गए तो हम बच्चे बैठाएंगे तो मसला नहीं
कोई वास्ते करें पन के यो है ना बस सफाई करें ना मुरम्मत हो गया
पूरा सर्दी से के
हाँ पूरे सर्दियां तो आई गई यो हाई तो सही
कड़े दे बिजली
हाँ
सफाई नहीं कहने वाला जिनसे खंबा शंबा लाना होता जिनसे घास बंदी करना होता वो चिकन
हाँ हाँ मुरम्मत वगैरह करें
अगले के बारे में खाने वाले बिजली है रात सही है तो गलाव ना पानी का जवाब चला रही थी बाकी बिजली पूरी नहीं वाला सर्वेन पुराने वाला
ओ ए तरह शिगिर टाइम पे आना है ना उस्ताद नींद आता है ना ओ क्या है पिया मेरा फरमादार फरमा बरदार
ओए बिजली में सब तक ले जाते हैं ये नहीं की ना
पठान गिची में सीधी की बताओ है ना जी बताया के ओ ये मेडिकल है ना वैसे पूरे 8 बजने या 8:30 में
शेड्यूल नहीं है 8:30 चक्कर लाऊं 2:30 बजे
करनी तो ना मन मानी है आधा घंटा भी तक आधे उन्होंने मर्जी में नहीं